Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria and I am joined by my best friend and co-host, Miosha. Today we're reviewing Married at First Sight season 15, the reunion part 1. And boy, was that a show.
Mm.
But before we get into that, y'all, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And we're almost at 1K, which has been our goal. So please go ahead and hit the subscribe button for us and help us grow our channel. All right. We are going to start with the group session. We're going to go in the order that they went in on the show.
hmm
What were you what were your takeaways from the group session?
Mm. Well, I feel like Kevin just tried to get right to it. So which one of y'all don't like each other?
It was like 5 minutes in. I said, dang. But you know what's funny?
I could appreciate it though, because this
Yeah,
whole go the whole 2 hours and then the last 2 minutes,
2 minutes.
you want
Yes.
to bring it? No,
That's
absolutely
so
not. So
much.
I thought that that whole scene was going to be towards the end, but I was very thankful that we got it out of the way early. It was a mess.
Justin, I feel like Justin at some point said, "Oh, I found out," because they were going around asking people what they found out watching themselves on TV. Kristen's like, "Oh, I over enunciate." Alexis is like, "I learned it celibate, not celibate." And then Justin said, "I cry a lot," and the camera person goes right over to Nate. I said, "Now they know they know they're messy for that one." um,
Yeah, from the beginning, you could definitely kind of tell something was off there. But then Kevin asked, okay, well, since y'all don't want to answer who doesn't like each other,
yeah.
who blocked who and why did he ask that?
Child, he must have known. He had to have known. That was just too direct of a question, I feel
hmm
like, to ask. What do you feel? Okay. So I guess Justin unfollowed everyone. Then at some point he followed them again and then unfollowed. Very weird behavior, in my opinion. Like, not the first unfollow. If you've decided, hey, this is not something I want to do, these aren't people who I want in my future, that's fine. And I think you have every right to unfollow them. But to refollow, then unfollow again.
So I think that
Mhm.
he was in his feelings the first time, as we clearly see that he can do. And then he refollowed to be nosy. Because keep in mind, this is like some time out.
Yeah.
I think this is filmed 5 months later. So they're all watching it back with us. So
Hmm.
I think he was in his feelings the first time, but then he was like, nah, let me go refollow y'all to see what y'all have been up to, maybe what y'all have been saying, or, innuendos or whatever,
Hmm.
and then he refollowed to be nosy. That's what I think. Because
Interesting.
he's messy.
He is. I thought, okay, maybe he realized they didn't really do nothing to me,
He
and then
ain't realized
refollowed
nothing.
them. Yeah, and it sounds like, so that's the thing, when it's you against everybody, everybody else can't be the problem. So I understand what he's talking about with, like, Lindy and Morgan. Like, they were supposed to go jogging together and then they went without him. We actually have an episode coming out tomorrow of the podcast where we talk about being left out of friend stuff and
hmm
how that manifests, whatever. But I understood why he would feel some type of way about that, but then just to be like, all y'all fake. Like, it was a lot.
Even that, I'm like, why are you hanging out with Morgan? I don't understand this. Isn't this you were already caught up in some drama with them? So I wasn't I get why he would be upset and that they maybe went without him. Okay, fine. But why were you even trying to hang out with her in the first place?
Why is anybody trying to hang out with Morgan?
That didn't make any sense to me. And so yeah, so this whole back and forth about him blocking Nate, we finally get to the bottom of it, and he's like, "Well, I just don't like you." Obviously, well, wait, before we get to that,
Mhm.
this whole scene around him, I guess him claiming that Nate made a pass at him.
That tea was so disappointed. That tea was cold. That tea was an iced tea. That's how cold it was. It was not piping hot at all. Turns out giving somebody a compliment is hitting on them or making a pass at them. People on Twitter were like, first of all, Nate was probably just trying to help you with your self-confidence because you don't have none. Like, so why are you over here acting, like he was interested in you? I thought that was
Mhm.
very like uncalled for. And it's like, okay, maybe you do have nice skin. Like his skin is very smooth. Okay, so Nate, who's probably really into how well groomed he is
Mhm.
himself, was like noticing that. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, it was just a low blow in the moment, and then he had to think of something real quick. But Nate was not getting off of his neck. I will say that I was disappointed with the way the whole scene went. I
Yeah.
was disappointed in Justin because I felt like he was reaching and just taking it too far.
Hmm.
He was clearly spiraling, but I also was kind of disappointed in Nate. Like
Yeah.
at first, I was here for him being like, all right, well, say why you blocked people, but then he would not let it go. And
Yes.
that's where I was like, okay, Nate, you're kind of looking like you're in your feelings about this.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that he just would not let it go.
Which, okay, I understand him being his feelings because you have someone who, one, thinks this is just a big insult to say this about you, which it's not
Hmm.
necessarily the insult that he thinks it is. But then, like, you have someone questioning, like, your core, your sexuality, who you are as a person. So I could understand Nate being furious. I hate that it manifested in like such a childish way. Like, oh, so you gonna tell them? So why you block everybody? Are you gonna answer the question? Like, okay, we don't even care, he blocked y'all.
No,
That's it. Like it doesn't matter anymore, you know?
y'all are all adults, and then we finally get to what I think is the bottom of it is that it seems like in the beginning Justin and Nate and maybe probably all the guys are like, oh, we're in this together. And then at some point, Nate kind of realized that Justin was messy, or, they had that whole situation with Morgan and Ben. And he's like, well, I really don't want to be in your business. I don't want to be your therapist. So I don't really want to be close with you like that. So
Yeah.
it seems like from there, that's when Justin was feeling away
Mhm.
towards Nate because Nate wanted to kind of separate himself from the mess, essentially.
And yeah, and I love that Nate was like, I'm not trying to be your therapist because I understand how draining, like we said from the beginning, Alexa's gonna get tired of this because it is too much, not to justify anything that she did throughout the season,
Oh, yeah.
but but it really was too much. And I can understand Nate being like, okay, I need to worry about my own marriage and my own feelings and my own wife and all of that, you know? So I love that comment. But really, okay, so Justin definitely needs to grow up, and I think this is a case where if you felt like, hey man, you said you were going to have my back, and I feel like you haven't had it, if he would have just gone to him and maybe had that conversation. But I'm a big
Mm.
advocate of people, grown people having conversations if they're in their feelings about things. Like, first of all, it was a small thing to have a conversation about. But then if there is an issue that you're dealing with, or you're just not processing why this person seems distant, you can go ahead and say that to them. You don't have to block them. Like that's very juvenile behavior.
Also, I will say too, I think what was fueling a lot of Justin's emotions is that he's had a chance to watch what we've watched. So
Hmm.
he sees how he really feels about Alexis and, all his confessional cam footage as well.
Yeah.
And so it was what went down with them at the moment.
Mhm.
And then also him watching it back and realizing, oh, he really never had my back. He definitely don't like Alexis. And that's where I'm just like, oh, well, once you kind of realize that he wasn't seeing it for Alexis, which is your wife, ex-wife, whatever, then why not just let it go?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also was kind of like, okay, Nate, you're asking this man why he blocked you or why he blocked everyone. Don't
Yeah.
worry about everyone else. I don't understand why you're wondering why he blocked you when we all saw how you was talking about this man's
Like
wife.
you
I
you
can't even
really
get
have
it
a
out.
question about that? You want to know why he blocked you?
Like I can't even say it. We all saw what you were saying about Alexis, which we agreed with.
Yeah.
But at this point, why are you asking this man why he blocked you?
Too
Okay.
funny. Yeah, I put down that Justin is extremely sensitive. I think when you're sensitive like that, you have to be mindful and always like I think there are people who aren't sensitive enough where people are dragging them or treating them like crap and they're just like, "Oh, it's okay." But then there are people who are overly sensitive and you just need to be able to reconcile how you think they meant something versus how they actually meant it, and that's where the conversations come into play. So yeah, I think he just needs to recognize his sensitivity and be mindful of it in relationships with others.
Yeah, I will say though, one thing Alexa's gonna do is support her man, even if she gonna tear him down next. When they went outside, baby, can you regulate? Baby, are you good?
I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna. I do think Alexis used that as an opportunity to be the nice guy or to show people, see, I'm still trying to calm, like she used that as a moment to be like, oh, can you control yourself? Because her whole thing has been he can't control himself, which isn't fine, but like we recognize that. And that wasn't the sole reason behind all y'all's issues. Like you had a part to play too. So I was just like, I
Mhm.
kind of hated that. I'm like, girl,
She's
he
like,
just be proving her right all the time. And I hate that.
I know when they're both the problem.
Yeah.
So, and then the last thing that I wrote down was that Kristen and Mitch said that they both ended amicably, but then she goes on to say that she felt like decision day was so confusing for her, which we can get into more about when we talk about them.
Yeah. Oh, she looked good though.
Oh yeah,
She
she
looked
did.
good. I liked Lindy's dress.
Yeah, they
I
all
think it was
looked good.
cute. I think all of them looked pretty good. I don't think there was any. I
Yeah.
don't remember what Morgan had on because I don't be paying attention to
Yeah,
that.
her dress was fine. Yeah, they all
Was
looked
it black or
good.
something?
It was like a dark green, I thought,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so well, let's go to the couples. I guess first they had Lindy and Miguel. I didn't have much on them.
Yeah, other than to say that so far I'm wrong. I did not think that these two would make it for
To
very long, but 5 months later they're still together. So I will say I was wrong about them and I'm happy for them so far. I hope that it lasts.
They said when they said it's been easy, I was like, no, why y'all lying? It's not easy for I don't think it's easy for most people, especially two strangers.
You know why I think it's been easy? Because Miguel has been doing what he needs to do
Mm,
to keep it easy and to keep it
interesting.
going. That's why I think it's working. Because I mean, maybe we'll get to this later, but Lindy basically said she ain't been working on much. Like I'm just
Decorated the
here.
apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just here.
Adding plants and pictures.
So as long as he's willing to take accountability, overlook some of the flaws that she has, accept her for who she is,
Yeah.
then it'll be easy and good. And she'll keep, I will say she was glowing, smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, she was. And she hyphenated her last name, so that's cool. That
She
settles
played
that.
Dungeons and Dragons now.
Yeah, once a week. So yeah, and I think like of course he talked about the day when he like went off on her, the couples retreat. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with just like is my relationship. I'm satisfied with how he responded to that and just realizing that he was wrong and that wasn't the right way to address the situation. So I thought it was okay. When they started talking about McGindy, I was like, okay, next. Y'all had a
Yeah.
fake baby, gone. Like,
Yeah. I think that they'll be good as long as Miguel is willing to go along. I feel like to get along. And I hope that this isn't a thing where he'll blow later in his own way, just by trying to go along to keep her happy.
he got to manage that.
If
Yeah.
he's gonna stay, yeah. But I don't know if you heard this. The streets are saying that they're not together
Yeah,
anymore.
I have heard that. And so when you were, I didn't know if you had heard it. That's why when you were like, "Oh, I was wrong about them," I'm like, "Girl,
Well,
don't
that
speak."
was based off of how the
Mhm.
reunion went,
Yeah,
but since then, I've been
I
lurking
have
around.
heard that. Yeah, who knows? But I guess we'll find out in a few weeks because the "Where Are They Now" thing, I think it's recorded like maybe a week or two after the reunion, so that's not really giving much intel. So
Yeah,
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 so they'll probably be together for that.
yeah,
Okay, well, definitely hope for the best for them. Uh, yeah, whatever
yeah.
comes of them, I think we'll be okay with.
Yep.
Sasha and Nate, let us get to them. Okay, now that's based on how this went. I'm surprised they're still together because
And the streets are saying that they're not, but we're gonna disregard that. We're gonna focus on the reunion.
and shouldn't be because
And
they couldn't
I
even
will
get through
just
that
say,
interview.
I would just say, I'm standing by what I said, not just last week, but the week before.
Hmm.
That I thought that they should have both said no.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
standing by that. And
I
all the
I
cracks are
agree.
showing through now.
I mean, like, and those are big cracks. Those are
Where do
huge.
we even where do we even start?
Okay, so they're still together but don't live together. We can start there because it's giving me Steve and Noy. And then so I tweeted this. I was like, it's giving me Steve and Noy, but I guess if it works for them, that's cool. And somebody was like, but Steve and Noy broke up. And I'm like, exactly. Like,
And I
yeah.
also think there is some difference. So some
Mhm.
things that Nate called out to me, which were like ping, 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 red flags,
Yeah.
was that one, he said that he still doesn't feel comfortable, which I'm like, okay, maybe it's because Sasha isn't relinquishing control about certain things within her home.
Yeah.
All right, fine. The other thing was him commenting on the whole, well, she's out in the suburbs and I'm in downtown San Diego,
Hmm.
because it's not like, oh, her place is like down the street but still in the city.
Yeah.
Obviously being out in the suburbs and then being downtown are two different lifestyles. So
Yes.
for me, when he said that, it wasn't just about him being comfortable about living with her, it's the location. It seems
Mhm.
like he's not ready to let go of the city life, which is fine. uh as long as you're letting her, as long as you're being honest about that and not saying that it's just because you feel uncomfortable.
I will say, oh, sorry, go ahead. No,
I was
let
also going to
finish.
say that I don't know how they do leases out in San Diego, but 8 months
Thank
is a
you.
lot. Did you resign?
Because the math wasn't okay. So I maybe he re-signed right before the show, so he couldn't get out of it, but he doesn't want to spend the money to get out of it. But she has the money for him to get out of it. I think maybe when Nate signed up for this, he was thinking he would get someone who like they would be able to make those decisions together. Like, okay, we live here now. Where can we live next? And that wasn't an option with Sasha because she's like, "Oh, my house is already being built. That's where I'm gonna live." You know, so I think like sometimes when you get married to someone, part of the thrill of that is, oh, we're about to make like life decisions together. So we're ready to move into the suburbs. So let's look for something in the suburbs. Or we really like the city. So let's move together at another place in the city, you know? And so he didn't get that opportunity. His life was ready already made for
Yeah, you
him.
you want to be somewhat compatible, or at least be in a place where you can work towards what you're both deciding.
Because this is a permanent home. It's not like a starter home. This is like
Oh,
her
oh,
home
this
home.
is the house. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's not going to have a decision on where he lives ever, right? Because she's created this house already and that's her dream home. That's her permanent home. That's her forever home. It seems.
Yeah.
So,
And 8 months is a while. Like most people who have that long, they'll maybe sublet or something. So yeah, for me, that was just a red flag, in that I don't think he's ready. Like you said, like the compatibility on like where you'd live next,
mhm.
that, but I don't think that he's ready for the suburb life either.
Yeah,
So
no, that's a valid point that you made. I didn't think of that. But yeah, I was trying to make the math because he had his place before they met, unless he like had redone his lease right before. Because they only tell them 2 weeks before, so maybe he had redone his lease or already told them, "Oh, I'll be here for the next year," and then maybe they got married, and the 5 months happened, and now he has 8 more months, but that would still be 13 months.
in some places, like I do remember, they will offer like 15 months. Like the longer you
True.
go, you do get a discount. So maybe that was some
His
type of situation.
situation.
But what I do know is that a lot of times it is cheaper just to like pay out the rest of your, like,
Time.
it's paid to cut the lease, and
Hmm.
then you so he has options, right?
Yeah.
If he really wanted to let the apartment go. One other thing that I wanted to talk about before we
Yeah.
move forward was something that Kevin talked about with them at the beginning when he
Mhm.
asked Nate, like, what did you feel and how did you feel about Sasha in the beginning? And he went on how she was the whole package, everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
But when they got to her, I never heard her say, like, she focused on how nervous she was.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of waiting, like, okay, Sasha, are you gonna say what about this man you felt like was the right fit for you? She was just like, I was just so nervous.
I didn't
And
even want to look up, but my friends didn't tell me to run, so I kept walking. Like, girl, what?
so you're not gonna say at least one thing. So for me, that was actually the first red flag.
What do you think about them? Like, okay, so we do 2 weeks in one place, 2 weeks in the other place, and she's like, "Oh, I love it," but I wouldn't love that. From someone who's like living in the suburbs, and I think the value of that life is stability. So I don't want to spend 2 weeks at my house and 2 weeks at your house. Like, we're married. This isn't a girlfriend boyfriend situation where you come and spend the weekend, So
And you're never gonna be as comfortable
in someone else's place.
in someone else's place where you don't have all of your stuff. So I mean, I feel like it's a hassle. It's going to get old really quick.
Mhm.
I would more so see the apartment for, oh, we're going to go spend the weekend
Mm. In the
downtown, we'll
city.
eat, we'll hang out, we'll go out, it's a
Yeah.
vibe, and then we go home on Monday or Sunday
Mhm.
night. I could more so see that where we spend our weekends down there and we can
Yeah.
enjoy the city life. But during the week, I think he works from home, and I know she's probably all over with her real estate stuff or whatever. So
Mm.
yeah, I feel like that's going to get old really quick. Also because Stasha has invested a lot of money, time, and effort to build her dream home. So
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's gonna get old.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. So when
Mm-mm.
they first asked, "How are you guys doing?" she said they're doing well with two things. Two things that it don't seem like they're doing well on at all, based on this interview turning into a mini therapy session. But she says they're doing well with communicating and compromising. But they spend 2 weeks at one person's house and 2 weeks at the other person. I guess that's a compromise, child. Let me not judge, but yeah, I don't know. It seemed like their communication broke down almost immediately.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Almost immediately. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't even have much to say on that because I'm like, these are not things that y'all seem to be
Yeah.
doing well on. I don't know.
So he said that she's a moving target. So like she wants more and she's demanding more from him, but the things that he does do, he doesn't get credit for. And so it's like he gave the example of axe throwing and some other activity. I don't remember what it was that he said he took her to do.
Jet
Jet
skiing or
skiing.
something. Yeah.
Jet skiing. Yeah. And so she's like, I mean, it was cool. And he felt like I planned these activities for us to do. And so it's like, I understand your partner might want to do things that you don't want to do. Um, but her reaction to it, I was just like, dang, this poor guy.
So I see both sides. I think her reaction could be better in
Yeah.
explaining like, hey, when you plan activities outside of the home,
Mhm.
um, like keep in mind my interests and desires. If it's, so like maybe it's more balanced.
Mhm.
Um, but I also think that this is just something that you'll learn over time with your partner, their love language and the things that they like and their expectations. They're still so new.
Mhm.
But I did kind of understand what she's saying. Like, yes, you're planning activities, but maybe you need to balance out the activities of like, this is like
What God
Stasha's thing
wants. Yeah.
and not, because it's like, yeah, you want credit
Mhm.
for planning something that you wanted to do anyways. And it is a little bit different when you're like, oh, maybe she likes candles. So we go do a candle pouring class. Like, that's
Yeah.
her thing. So I think it's the thoughtfulness of the activities maybe that she's looking for. So when he said that she's a moving target,
Mhm.
the first thing that I thought was, yeah, she probably is hard to please. But I also thought that um she's hard to please because I don't know that Nate is what she wants
Want.
and what
Yes.
she wanted.
And he can't please her if that's the case.
Mm-mm. I don't think that when she had the opportunity to say if he was, she didn't take it. Or at least they didn't show us if she did. So yeah, I thought like, okay, well, maybe you're not what she wants. And then she also mentioned things like doing things around the house, like, I give you credit for when you do things. So
Mhm.
she mentioned the whole like, oh, if there's 7 days out of the week and we have to eat, like that's great that you cook one day, but I'm still figuring out dinner the other 6 days.
Mhm.
So it seems like there's just like a disconnect there of maybe
Right.
expectations.
Yeah.
And I'm just not convinced that I think that on the surface, Nate is what she wants, maybe
Hmm.
from aesthetics, vibe, sexual chemistry. But I think once you dig below the surface, I'm not convinced that he's what she wants.
So their session just made me think how well they're communicating. So I wonder like if she has expressed to him, hey, these activities that you've done are cool and I'm having a good time as long as I'm with you, but I do want you to make note of the things that I say I want to do and maybe plan for those things. Like, yeah, I have fun jet skiing, great. But that was something
Mm-hmm.
you initially brought up. Yeah, axe throwing was a fun time, but I wasn't the one who initiated that outing? And so I
Mm-hmm.
think I wondered how well they're communicating if he's like, oh, I just need more credit. And she's like, okay, well, you'll get credit when you do something more. I do think her standards are I don't think they're too high, but I do understand the moving target thing because I think for him it's like, okay, she wants me to do stuff around the house more. I ended up cooking. Can I get like some acknowledgement like, oh, you've done this better?
It's still not enough though. So,
But then she needs to communicate what enough is. Like, hey, if you could cook
mhm.
half the times of the week, or if you could even meal prep so that way I don't have to wonder about what we're doing. Like, I think she needs to communicate what enough is because he clearly thinks, oh, well, I took her feedback. Like, you can see him trying to take her feedback and implement it, but he's just not doing it right. And I think he doesn't know what right is.
Also, the sense that I get from Stasha is
Mhm.
that I think she thought she was going to be paired with someone
Mm.
who knew these things. Like sometimes you
Yeah,
can kind of feel like, well, why do I need to explain that much or
to
go
this
into
person.
that much? Like it should be a no brainer if we have to figure out what we're going to eat 7 days a week,
Yeah,
that if we're both working outside of the home, that you're going to pitch in more.
yeah,
And so I think for her, she may have just gone into this thinking like, oh, well, as a grown man, you should know this. I shouldn't have to
yeah.
explain all of this. But I mean, they took an accelerated process. So I don't know why she thought that she wouldn't have to maybe explain more.
That's
Also,
one of
I
my
just go
biggest
back
pet
to
peeves.
I just go back to I don't think that he's the one that she would have picked or that she even wants. When she said one thing that they're still working on is that she wants more vulnerability, she wants to get deeper. When she said she wants more mental stimulation, I was like, there
Yeah,
it is.
he's not deep enough for her.
He's not deep enough for her. Side note, but I had a girlfriend
Mhm.
where like we were talking about like how's your dating life going or whatever. And she's like, I'm meeting all these guys. They're great. They're great. They're great. Like on the surface, but she's like, the conversation is just like, meh. There's no deepness. There's no mental stimulation there. And so I think for her, she went into it with the
Yeah.
thought of like, I want someone who kind of lights that fire for me in that way. And I don't think that he's that. Not to say that I think he's a bad person. I just
Right.
think that those were her expectations and he's not meeting it.
And he has like some depth. So a really good way to do this, like going in depth with people, and we do this on our podcast for one of our segments, but the We're Not Really Strangers game, like
Mm-hmm.
those conversation starter card games are literally designed so that you can do it. So I think, and this isn't to say Stasha is the one who needs to like make all the effort at all, but
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they need to find tools that will help her understand him because he's not gonna if that's not who you are as a person, it is hard to like just become that person over a period of 5 months. And I know this because I I love a deep conversation.
Yeah.
I like if we could just sit down and bare our souls to each other, I'm all here for it. But not everybody wants to do that. Like,
And you just maybe don't feel like it. And it's a different
yeah,
situation when you're so new.
yeah.
And so, like he said, like Sasha wants what she wants and she wants it now.
Hmm.
And so also I think like a little bit of her impatience is showing through. Like it's only been 5 months that they've been like, separate from the show. But I,
Speaking
I still
of,
go back. He's not what she wants. I don't think so.
yeah, because they talked about the controlling thing, like, oh, is she relinquishing control a little bit? And that was another thing because he said, she'll say, cook dinner, and he'll start doing the dinner, and then she'll come and want to take over. And so that's a really difficult situation to be in. But she said, I'm open to him saying, sit down somewhere and then continuing. But
But then you can't complain.
about you having to do it for 6, yeah, so she's like, oh yeah, I'll come and I'll start helping him, and then eventually I'll take over, and then I get mad because I guess he leaves. And I'm that type of person, like if I'm cooking like Thanksgiving is coming up, if I'm cooking Thanksgiving dinner or this is my dish and somebody comes and they're like trying to be over my shoulder, you got it, it's your dish now. I'm
Yeah.
very much like that, so I understand. um After all that tension, Kevin had the audacity to ask about children. I'm like, Kevin, do you think they need children? They couldn't even get through a conversation with you on TV. You think they need to add another person to the mix of them not really communicating and compromising? What the kids going to be at two houses every other week? Like what? Why do you think that question is necessary? But
I mean,
yeah,
it's necessary because it was a part of their storyline.
I
I mean,
guess.
she wants to have her babies. Like I said before, Nate, not he's not interested in having babies right now.
Yeah.
He's not. And based off of how this conversation went, I don't think that they should.
Yeah. And like you said, he still wants to live in the city, which I mean, I'm sure people raise their kids in the city, but one might think the suburban life is better.
Even Sasha said she wants a consistent emotional connection. The
Mm.
girl wants the deepness. So I think she wants her babies, but I think she probably will hold off. Like
Hmm.
if she's made it to 37,
Yeah.
I don't foresee her like being reckless now.
Yeah.
So
Good. Morgan and Ben.
so I'll say this really quick before we move on.
Okay.
I really wanted them to work
Yeah.
because aesthetically they look nice together. They seem like they vibe. But
Yeah.
I think below the surface, I stand by. I don't think that they're compatible long term. Um, and hearing that they're not together anymore, that's what the streets are saying. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say Kevin, I think, was leaning into Nate a little bit too much, and it wasn't even like him leaning into
Mm-mm.
Sasha. So yeah, Morgan and Ben,
And I don't even know why
they
she
were
was
there.
there, but
She was there. Yeah. So she didn't get enough feedback for me, and I'm hoping that changes next week. But because I guess they're cool now, uh, everybody's giving her a pass. So I hope she's seen all the tweets and watched some of the
oh,
reviews.
I think that she did because she was kind of singing a different tune.
Mm,
Like she was saying that, oh, I would have been okay if he just wasn't continuing to go to just Justin. So she's definitely been watching the
yeah,
videos and on Twitter. She even said that she would have been okay if finding out after the fact if Alexis didn't find out. So now
yeah,
she's trying to make it seem like it's because he was going to the same person. No, girl, we all heard what you said and that you didn't want him talking to anyone.
yeah,
Um, and I wish that somebody would have held her to the fire on being the one to start this whole mess.
yeah,
She,
yeah.
your lie created this, and I knew Ben wasn't gonna do it, but
Of course not. He's so
I was
kind.
holding out hope that he would just be like, "Look, but you did lie."
Yeah,
Oh, we can
yeah.
wish.
But I am happy for him. He seems to be doing it. I hate that he was the one who reached out after. the show and was like, let's do brunch or whatever. I absolutely hated that. She's like, oh, well, when nobody told him, I wanted him to, like, girl, shut up. And she's like, now, I definitely do think he felt bad. Oh, so now he felt bad because when you were on the show, you were saying, no, he doesn't show remorse. He doesn't show enough remorse for me. And I want to see that he like grovels or whatever. She didn't say that,
The
but
the
she might have been that.
audacity of this girl to tell the initial lie, but have all these standards for how he should be conducting
Yeah.
himself. I hope we don't ever have to watch her stomping again. She can stomp the yard right on. Bye.
I know. I didn't have much on them. That was really it.
Yeah,
I
that's
hope,
it. Let's keep it moving.
yeah. Kristen and Mitch. This irritated me because it was Kristen is an attractive woman, beautiful. And I love that she was saying like, I didn't even think that would be a problem that he wasn't attracted to me. I'm like, yes, girl, talk your stuff because she's very cute. But then, like, I feel like they were beating, what's the saying? Beating
A
the
dead
dead horse.
horse.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
good. They were beating the dead horse when they kept talking about this attraction and not being attracted. I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, he didn't want her. He's stupid because she's bad. Like, let's move on. But they stayed there a little too long for my liking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like Kristen. I
Hmm.
just felt like this is like the umpteenth time where they've tried to get Mitch to say certain things
Yeah,
in a certain way. And y'all should know by now that he's not here for it.
he's just not.
And so, yeah, I felt for her and that I felt like they kept, just like rehashing it.
Hmm.
I'm like, that can't be good for her. He's
Yeah.
never going to change his mind on it. Um, I will say, though, that what did she say? She felt like decision day was confusing.
Hmm.
This is where I feel like Kristen,
Yeah,
it wasn't confusing.
it wasn't.
It wasn't. There was nothing confused. You confused yourself by trying to create a third door. There were two doors. Yes, no. You created the maybe,
Yeah.
not him.
Yeah.
So her sitting up there being like, "Oh, decision day was just so confusing." Why?
And that's the thing, because she's like, "Oh, we're still laughing, we're still joking." Like, you ain't never laughed and joked with a man without romance being involved. Like, yeah, he was laughing and joking with you because he was trying to let you down easy, but that didn't mean that you should create this third door.
Yeah. And then she says, "Oh, I would have said no, even if he said yes." And we both know.
I believe her.
Really? Mm.
I want to believe my girl. You know what's funny to me? The hobby conversation that we
How
were
do
shown.
you how do you believe her
Mhm.
when even after he said no, she was still a maybe? How do you believe her? Explain
I
yourself.
I feel like for her, um, it would have been a no, like she said. But then when they were still laughing and like really chummy afterwards, I think that's what led her to open that third door. And it was like, maybe
Also,
this is fine.
how do you when Kevin said like, "Oh, when did you know like it was the end or over?" And she
Yeah.
referred to the sister, the whole like, "Oh, she needs to wear less makeup and all this
Yeah,
stuff." Was that the end? No.
it wasn't.
I
Maybe
want
it
to
was the beginning
believe
of the end.
I want to believe her, but yeah, it seemed like the end was when he embarrassed her
Mm,
at the last get together.
barbecue.
That was the end.
Yeah. Well, she's on the East Coast now, so that's what they said that. I mean, she said she had been spending a lot of time in New York, but the Married at First fans, she's like, or Instagram page said that she lives in Virginia now. So
I wanted to ask you this before we
mhm.
move on. Kristen felt like he didn't want to be married. And I don't think he ever answered the question of, no, I wanted to be married. I just didn't want to be married to you. I don't
Yeah.
think he ever said that.
Mm-mm.
Did you feel like he just didn't want to be married or that it was just her?
I think I don't. I think he wants to be married. I think she wasn't the woman for him, obviously, but I also don't know that there's a woman for Mitch, like at this stage, unless he does the work that he's been talking about. So
Mm,
I think he likes the idea of marriage, especially seeing his brother and his, his sister-in-law and their kids. I think they have like two. So I think
mm-hmm,
he wants to be married. I think he now has to realize all that marriage is and get himself together for that, perhaps.
mm.
Yeah. I think I was talking about the hobby conversation when he was like, "Do you have any hobbies?" Like that was so condescending, and I'm glad they didn't show that on because what she's like, "Do you see me do things? Do you see me read? Do you see me go to the beach? Do you see like so? Do I have hobbies?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess you do." Like, why would you even ask someone?
He's such an
it's
odd person.
it's so like he just don't be there,
Mm-mm.
all the way. Okay,
All right.
so Alexis and Justin, which I guess we'll end with them next week. I mean, yeah, their time together is gonna end next week. So I guess we have the rest of them, and then we have the experts coming on the show next week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so apparently they slept together they may be slept together on the honeymoon, perhaps.
All that talk, I was just like, ew, y'all are being way too descriptive.
It was too much.
It was just way too much. No, I
Yeah.
was not here for that. I will say though that um it just shows how both of them are just really childish. Like, if they weren't going to share that they slept together on the honeymoon, I can respect that. That's your business. You don't have to tell people. But the way that they were bigging up, like, no, we haven't, no, we haven't, like, it was all the extraness that I thought about up
Mm,
until when they did claim to sleep together, that
yeah.
I was just like, y'all are so silly. I just can't.
Well, Alexis said this was so uncomfortable, but she said they dabbled in adult things, but it didn't get that far. And he's like, "Well, I."
He claimed that they did twice. The
He said,
first
"I
night,
got far. I don't know about you."
like I said, it was too much.
Sorry, that was so funny. It seems like Justin has watched himself and he just came back with all this energy, like he has to redeem himself. He has to be this tough guy, and it's like it's unnecessary. Like we already know who you are. The damage is done. Like just take this L and sit down.
I don't know what to believe with these people anymore.
She probably did come to his house. So
Oh, I do believe that. Yeah.
yeah, the lie Justin told about Nate, which it wasn't a lie. He just misinterpreted it
Mm-hmm.
as something that it wasn't, and then like brought his misinterpretation to the forefront. But something like you came to my house, that's
I,
not something you can misinterpret. She was either there or she wasn't. So I do think like they were still hanging out a little bit, maybe after.
mm-hmm.
And so that added to his confusion. But when Justin said you've been gaslighting me this whole time and I'm not going to let you do that anymore, I was like, yes, Justin, but also because of his energy the whole night, I was like, ugh, Justin, you are making mountains out of molehills left and right tonight. And it felt like he just wanted to expose it. And if he was hanging that secret over her head, I think that's absolutely messed up.
But
Um,
how was he hanging it over her head when he
when
was the
he's
one?
the one who said, keep it a secret.
That don't make no
So
sense.
when she said it put her in a either way it was wrong for him to be like, oh, I'm gonna tell people because it's like, okay, it's your own secret. Tell them if you want. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just
That
think they're
seems like
there.
something she would hold over his head. That doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Like you can't believe anything these people are saying anymore. They're
I
just
know.
so messy, so confused. I do believe that she did show back up at his house. I could
Yeah,
believe that.
absolutely.
Um, and I will say that if if these sessions that they were having were so terrible,
Why did she go back? Maybe she
why
just wanted a
continue?
warm body.
No, no, no. Well, it seemed the way that it was portrayed was that yeah, they may have been intimate earlier on, who knows how many times, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like it continued over the course of the season. And all I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is I don't believe one of them either way. But if it was so terrible, I don't know why you would continue to do it and then put on a front that you just did it if it was just like bad.
Yeah.
That's not adding up to me. Okay.
And then keep coming back for supposedly more afterwards. So yeah, I think they are obviously not each other's people. I think
Yeah.
Alexis will probably do well with another man. I do stand by that. I think Justin has a lot of like insecurity and sensitivity that he needs to just be more in tune with before he goes and dates anybody else. So
Yeah, his brother tried to tell us early on that he wasn't ready. You remember?
but that's the thing. Like, I feel like sometimes when people are giving advice, they say, "Oh, you're not ready because of a reason that's not the reason," and then they say it in such a harsh way that nobody can receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, it's like you already on the show, so what? What is it going to change?
I think too, Justin's been watching these reviews. Um, on our specific video, I have one where I think that he watched, but
I can't.
I'll tell you after the fact. But I do think that he's been watching these reviews, and I think a lot of them who were getting drug on the internet watched the season, saw the feedback,
Mhm.
and came back trying to course correct. But Justin's course correction, it ended up worse for him. Like he would have been better off keeping the same energy he had. I think he would have gotten a lot more sympathy.
For
Um,
that's the thing. You got to play it like Alexis. See, she's smart. She's like, hey, it's not about Nate, it's about you. Can you regulate yourself? Like she is playing it perfectly. I mean, we see right through it, girl, but you played it
e-
perfectly.
even when he accused her of coming over, she was like, "You're a liar. You're
Right.
lying."
Straight face. No, Alexis is funny to me, and I definitely think she would thrive with the right man. It's just clear that Justin wasn't the right one, and I wish that she wouldn't have pretended like he could turn into the right one. That was the only problem that I really had with her is like you are gaslighting him, and you're not realizing, hey, you just don't like him, or you're realizing it, and you're still trying to play along, which is not fair. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the piece for me. That's the problem. And that she's smart and manipulative. So like, yeah, she'll be with the right guy, but don't ever find yourself in a situation where you're trying to prove your point or that she did something or whatever because her mind is working a mile a minute.
And she does it so calmly. She does it so calmly. She's not about to raise her voice at you. What? No, she will manipulate. But baby, that's what I was saying, baby. That's what I was saying, and you don't know, and you keep getting loud. So yeah. Anyway, we'll be back for reunion part two. But
I
also
mean,
happy
what
that
else is there to talk about?
I mean, really, the
Jeez.
experts and what they say to them. That's really
Oh,
it.
okay.
So
Lord,
we'll
they
do
know how to
one
drag
more.
it out.
Miosha's like, we don't have anything else to say about you. But we'll be back one more time. And don't forget to subscribe. Check out our new podcast episode dropping at midnight Eastern time on any
Mhm.
podcast platform, Girlfriends and Goals podcast. And we will see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.